The autumn air in the Blackwood Valley was crisp, carrying the scent of pine needles and damp earth. Tim and Angel had planned this hunting trip for months. It was supposed to be a retreat from the noise of the city, a chance to track deer and reconnect with nature. Tim, an experienced outdoorsman, navigated the dense forest with practiced ease. Angel, though less experienced, shared his enthusiasm for the wilderness. They set up camp miles away from the nearest paved road, surrounded only by towering trees and the deep silence of the wild. The first 2 days were idyllic. They tracked game, shared stories by the fire, and enjoyed the isolation. But on the third evening, the atmosphere shifted. It began subtly, a snapped twig in the distance, the sudden, unnatural silence of the forest birds. Tim brushed it off as a passing predator, perhaps a coyote, perhaps a bear. But Angel felt a prickle of unease at the back of her neck. That night, as the fire died down to glowing embers, they heard it. A low, rhythmic tapping against the trunk of a nearby oak tree. Tap. 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 Tim grabbed his rifle and shone his heavy-duty flashlight into the darkness. But the beam revealed nothing but shadows. Probably just a woodpecker, he muttered, though his grip on the rifle betrayed his tension. Angel did not sleep that night, her eyes fixed on the canvas of their tent, listening to the rustling leaves. By dawn, the unease had blossomed into outright dread. When they unzipped the tent, they found their supplies ransacked. But it was not the work of an animal. Their food was untouched, but their water bottles had been slashed open, the precious liquid drained into the dirt. More chillingly, a circle of smooth white river stones had been arranged perfectly around the ashes of their campfire. "We are leaving," Tim declared, his voice tight. He did not need to explain. They packed their remaining gear in record time and began the long trek back to the truck. The forest, which had seemed so welcoming days before, now felt like a cage. The trees loomed closer, the shadows stretched longer. An hour into their hike, the true terror began. A sharp whistle cut through the air, echoing off the trees. It was a human whistle, a jaunty, discordant tune that made Angel's blood run cold. Tim raised his rifle, scanning the tree line. "Who's there?" he shouted. His voice was swallowed by the vastness of the woods. Suddenly, a figure darted between the trees to their left. It was fast, clad in dark, ragged clothing, its face obscured by a crude burlap mask. Before Tim could aim, the figure vanished. Then came a laugh, a dry, rasping sound that seemed to come from all directions at once. They were not dealing with one person. They were being hunted by a group.
Panic set in. Tim and Angel broke into a run, abandoning stealth for speed. The stalkers played with them. Arrows thudded into tree trunks mere inches from their heads. Strange guttural clicks and hoots echoed through the canopy, a twisted language used by their pursuers to coordinate the hunt. At one point, Angel tripped over a concealed tripwire, narrowly avoiding a snare trap designed to hoist a human into the air. "Keep moving!" Tim yelled, pulling her to her feet. His face was pale, smeared with dirt and sweat. As the sun began to set, casting long, bloody streaks across the sky, they stumbled into a clearing. At the center stood a gruesome effigy made of sticks, animal bones, and scraps of clothing. Clothing that looked terrifyingly similar to the spare jackets they had left in the tent. From the edge of the clearing, 3 figures emerged. They moved with a terrifying, synchronized grace. They wore different masks, one of twisted metal, one of cracked leather, and the burlap one from earlier. They carried crude, rusted weapons, a machete, a heavy iron pipe, and a hunting bow. Tim fired a warning shot into the dirt. "Stay back!" he roared. The figures did not flinch. They simply tilted their heads, watching the couple with silent, predatory amusement. Then the one with the bow raised his weapon and loosed an arrow. It grazed Tim's shoulder, tearing through his jacket and drawing blood. Tim returned fire. The crack of the rifle was deafening in the clearing. The bullet struck the metal-masked figure in the chest, but he did not fall. He just laughed. That same dry, rasping laugh. "Run!" Tim screamed, shoving Angel toward the opposite side of the clearing. The chase resumed in the dying light. The woods became a nightmare of snapping branches, heavy breathing, and the relentless pursuit of the killers. Tim and Angel pushed their bodies to the absolute limit, driven by primal terror. They scrambled down steep ravines, waded through freezing streams to lose their scent, and hid in the hollows of dead trees while the stalkers passed mere feet away, their heavy boots crunching on the forest floor. Hours blurred into an agonizing eternity of survival. The stalkers seemed to know the woods intimately, hooting them, toying with them, like cats with a mouse. Finally, just as dawn threatened to break, they saw it, the glint of moonlight on metal. It was their truck. A surge of desperate hope propelled them forward. They burst from the tree line, sprinting across the gravel road. Tim fumbled for the keys, his hand shaking violently. He jammed the key into the lock, threw the door open, and shoved Angel inside before diving into the driver's seat. As the engine roared to life, a heavy thud rocked the vehicle. The burlap-masked figure had slammed onto the hood, raising his machete. Tim did not hesitate. He slammed the truck into drive and floored the accelerator. The figure was thrown off, tumbling into the ditch as the truck sped away, tires spinning and kicking up gravel. They drove in silence for miles, the heater blasting, their breath coming in ragged gasps. The sun rose, illuminating the safe, ordinary world outside the forest. They had survived, but the horror did not end with their escape. When they finally reached the local police station and recounted their ordeal, a search party was organized. Dozens of officers and volunteers combed the Blackwood Valley. They found the campsite. They found the slashed water bottles and circle of stones. They even found the gruesome effigy in the clearing. But they never found the stalkers. There were no tracks, no abandoned camps, no DNA left behind. It was as if the killers were ghosts, born from the dark heart of the forest itself. Months passed. The physical wounds healed, but the psychological scars remained. Tim and Angel installed heavy locks on their doors and jumped at every sudden noise. The police investigation eventually went cold. There were no missing persons reports in the area, no similar crimes in the region. The most terrifying part was not the chase or the new